Okay. Tell us about this one, please.
Yeah. This is Ernie Anderson.
Okay, I'll zoom in on him. Generally, though, this is that same thresher or thrashing machine that we were looking at earlier
Yes,
that
it's the
belonged to
same
the
one.
Andersons. Okay. And now over. Could you point to Ernie once more, please? Okay. Okay. And was he one you were going to say anything about at this point?
Not so much him as
Okay.
that I remember. He's a good guy. He was a good welder.
Okay.
This is Ernie Anderson.
Yeah. Okay.
And he always run the tractor on an average.
Okay.
And he was a man that could do just about anything. And you could go down there to his shop, and he had an old anvil and all that equipment. And I still have some things here that he made for my husband. And he was really missed when he left here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Henry Anderson.
Okay.
And that's Ernie's brother.
Mm-hmm. And they lived together.
And that's right. And they lived together.
Two bachelors.
They were two bachelors. Their parents, I can remember their parents as far as that's concerned. It was, well, I can't think of their names now. Chris Anderson, for one.
Mm-hmm.
And Maggie, it was his mother, their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, lots of times, I'd have these two brothers help me when I was farming here alone and my husband was working on the roads, building roads and stuff like that. And instead of paying them, I would give them like salt pork and stuff, because we had our own meat and they liked that better. And he would say, Henry'd say, well, we some see we shall not waste anything, and they never did. And he says, we will fry our pork first, and then we'll fry the potatoes in it, and that way that can salt the potatoes, and it won't be any salt wasted.
Pretty frugal, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And during the Second World War, one of the things they did, my daughter was awfully sick. She'd had tonsillectomy, and they helped me out to have sugar and stuff. We'd trade stuff like that. And I couldn't get shoe stamps, and they would wear their shoes. They didn't wear out shoes like kids did, and they would give me shoe stamps so I could buy more shoes for my kids.
Pretty nice neighbors.
You better believe they are. They won't be. There isn't anyone around that's been any more good neighbors than those guys were.
Mm-hmm. Who else do we have here?
Hmm?
Who else do we have in the picture?
And here is Walter Hodig.
Mm-hmm.
And he spent a lot of time up here with us.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Jean were always together. They could tear the wagon apart or do just about anything. And then, of course, they had to put it together for me, too, their little play toys.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my brother Howard.
Okay.
And he always helped quite a lot. We changed work back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Jean. And she loved to be out wherever there was machinery.
Oh, yeah?
She was rather be there than any place.
Sounds like she kind of took after you.
Well, to a certain extent, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And here is Olaf Umland, and he worked for us. And he came from East Jordan, and he was a 4F guy in the Second World War. And that's the way we got him.
What does 4F mean?
Well, it means that they could work, but they weren't good enough for the service.
Oh, this would be what they would do instead of going into the military?
Mm-hmm. They would let you, like you applied for them, and you could get them to work with you. But sometimes it took more patience than a saint to work with them.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
This is the good old days of Camp Kohana in 1931, when I worked over there at Camp Kohana. And I was working for $10 while I cleaned the cottage, but then I had to slip back to $7 a week. $10 a week and then $7 a week when I run the dining room because I had to go in with the other help. And I had two girls from Kohana work under me that was working their way through. And this was our cooks, and this is Mrs. Clement, and this is, I believe, Mrs. Racco, and this is Mrs. Say. And Mrs. Say was our pastry cook, and Mrs. Clements was our vegetable cook.
Mm-hmm. And this picture is taken at Camp Kohana, isn't
Mm-hmm.
it? In those days. Okay.
This is Mr. Alfred Millington, and he used to have a place on M22, just before you go into the pines toward Glen Arbor. And one day, my husband had been down there, and he was having a very rough time. He's just, well, he'd give his money to his son is what he did to instead of keeping it for himself. And my husband brought him home, and this is my daughter Jean that's standing there with him. And we kept him here for better than a year, and we wouldn't let him give any of his money away. And this is our horse Dick, and he was cultivating with him. And we would not let him give his money away, and we made him put it in the bank. And one day, I took him and I said, Grandpa, we're going to take you to Traverse City and get you some decent clothes. We had given him my husband's father's clothes while he was here. He had died, and he had some real good clothes. And so I took him out to Traverse City, and some people that never probably ever heard of the Irishman and the Jew, but they were on Front Street. And I got him all outfitted with brand new clothes, a new suit and everything. And I made him wear it home. And when he came home, the people didn't know him, and he looked just exactly like Henry Ford. And they just couldn't believe it, but he was so proud of all these new clothes he had. And so many people come and took him out for dinner because he looked so nice.
So he came and stayed at your farm
Mm-hmm.
and worked for you for the most part, and then he would go down to his own place to kind of keep it up periodically or something?
No, he didn't. He didn't go down.
Just kind of left it?
He kind of left it, and he just stayed here and he helped us. And oh, we took him places. I imagine Art took him down once in a while, or we did, but he stayed here all the time. And he had a bedroom up, the little bedroom upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and I had him really cleaned up. He really looked bad when we took him, but boy, he really looked nice when he left.
Mm-hmm. Did he have a wife down there on his farm?
No, his wife had died, and his son had, I think, went to Detroit with his family, but he kept sending him his Social Security, or it wasn't a Social Security, it was some other pension. Anyway, we would not let him do it.
Mm-hmm.
We said, you're going to keep this money that's not for your son, and you're going to keep it, and you're going to get some decent clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was proud when we got him all fixed up. And we'd take him wherever we went and that.
Did he, after that time, go back to working his own farm, or was that kind of the end of that farm?
Well, he went back there some, but Charlie Olson got him down there to his place.
Mm.
And that was, kind of a downfall.
Mm. Mm-hmm. But that would have been about the end of the Millington farm then, for
That's
the most
right.
part.
Yeah.
And the time period we're talking about here would have been about when?
Well, probably 1940, in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have been, because Art's father died in 1939, and we took him shortly after that.
Okay.
He had a lot of berries, He
Yeah.
used to raise an awful lot of berries, and people went in there and they could pick them.
Mm-hmm.
And he planted all those pine nuts down around there.
Yeah.
And he helped me plant these big trees that's here.
Hmm.
He had a very green thumb.
I think there's still some peach trees as well as apples and stuff
Yes, sir.
down there. I think so. Okay.
This is what we used to call Grandma Smith. She has they own the farm that Ray Hames has now, and of course the park has it now too. But Ray Hames has a lease there of 10 acres. And there was a trail that goes right back of the house. In fact, I guess we're going to try to get a picture up there before we quit with this ordeal. And Grandma Smith always called it her trail because she would go down to her son John's, and she would always go down over that hill and go across to the Basch place and visit there, and then go and walk down to her son John's. And I guess the trail is still there from what Kim told me.
Mm-hmm. So the Basch place that you're talking about would be Gordon Basch place?
Yes,
And then her son John was down with the Garthy place next
that's
to the
right.
schoolhouse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she came from Germany,
Oh.
and she had a son, Frank Bachlach. And maybe I can get a picture from somebody for that too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he kept up things pretty well for him, and he'd stay in the winter, but he went on the boats in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a lot of boys around that, like Gordon Basch and my brother-in-law Bill, and those all jobs on the Great Lakes. And he was considered one of the best captains they ever had on the Great Lakes. And that was her son, and she brought him from Germany. And then she married George Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with him we don't like to even mention. We'll leave that, but it leaves a laugh.
Uh-huh. Okay. Do you happen to know how to spell the name Bachlach?
Blacklock, I think.
Okay.
I'll call Betty tonight and see if they can furnish me a picture of Frank.
Oh.
Because that would be good,
Yeah,
because
it
he
would.
was a captain on the Great Lakes.
Yeah. Be fun to get him in his uniform or something.
Yeah. In fact, when there's some foreign boat come into Manistee and they couldn't bring it into that harbor, and I think he was retired already, and they got him to bring it in.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
He was kind of the one that could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And we used to go up to the Sioux Locks, and we was lucky enough a couple times to happen to get his boat.
Oh, yeah?
And he'd always come off the boat and talk to us.
Oh. Okay.
This is a picture of my mother here, and she was raised in East Leland. Her parents died when she was young. In fact, her father committed suicide because they wanted him to do something on the lakes that he could not climb, and so the children were left alone, and she was raised by Henry Kars, over in East Leland. And so then she ended up here with my father. And this is Aunt Hattie Olson. She married, my mother married George Olson, and Aunt Hattie married Charlie Olson. And she was born in Germany and came over with her parents, who were Mr. and Mrs. Gosh, what was his name? It was Bramer, anyway, that had the grist mill.
Okay.
And they lived on what is the Charlie Olson place. At the park has all of it now. And she's been gone. She's a mother to Lorraine Mason. And this is my two girls, Arlene and Jean. And, of course, they're around.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is a cedar chest that Henry Anderson made, and he made it for my daughter, Arlene, and she has it now with her down at Millington, Michigan.
He actually made this for her
Mm-hmm.
when she was a child?
No, she was grown up, and
Oh.
I don't know whether she talked to him or what,
Mm-hmm.
but he made this for her.
Hmm.
He was always good to my kids. They both were.
Okay.
This is a wardrobe that Martin Basch, that would be Milton Basch's grandfather, made. He was great for making all these things. They made a lot of furniture, and they had tools. In fact, I have some of the tools that they use for grooving and that. In fact, I just have one now. I give my son-in-law some. And this wardrobe has any nails to put it together, only the nails that was put like in for a piece for to make a hinge like that goes in just a hole. And my daughter has it down there now, and they had to take it out of the room and they pulled it all apart to do it, and now they have it back together, and she has really preserved it. And that's made of cherry.
Oh. So he was quite a master carpenter or
Oh
cabinet
yes,
maker.
Hameses have one down there too, and my son-in-law, my grandson, they're going to get me a picture. I don't know when they get at it because they've been in a pile of lumber, I guess, or something, is right in front of it, but it's a bookcase. No, not a bookcase, a writing desk, and it has the whole curved top in it.
Hmm.
And I've tried to let the kids all have it. I gave Arlene that, so she gave it to him. He treasures it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he made all of that stuff.
Okay.
Now those up here, like the
Oh,
hinge.
Excuse me just a minute, please. Okay.
Now the doors, it looks like there's hinges here. There's no hinges. You don't see a thing on the outside at all, as far as a nail or a thing. But it's all put together with little pieces of board for wedges and stuff. And for the hinges, they would drill a little hole in the door, and that would be like a nail, I guess, that they put in there just to slide it into that hole so as to open the door like a hinge. But otherwise there's no nails at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful, and then down here, I guess we can't see it, but there's a drawer even in there.
Down at the bottom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is the washout over there by the turnaround between Walter Hody's and the Weaver place. And you can see here how the dirt would slide down. And one day I was driving by there and I looked on this side and there wasn't a lot of trees in there. And here was 2 or 3 kids from the Sweeney place, and they were digging under a great big stone. And I got after them and I told them they get out of there as fast as they could because that might come over the top of them. Then when I got home, I called Mr. Sweeney and he said, "Gee, I'm glad you called me." He said, "I'll get right over there and get them." And this was all washed out by just heavy rains. And this is why I'm so careful about rain now, that we don't get anything started, but we would get some more washouts like that.
Okay.
This is my brother Alfred, the youngest one in our family, and his dog. And he was raised down here where Walter Hoodick lives now. And I believe that's the old outhouse there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's about all you can say about that.